This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, fine. So today we will be learning about some Python basics.
Okay.
Okay, so whenever I'm talking about Python or any other programming language, so first of all, we need to have an idea of what exactly is a program.
Okay.
So whenever I'm talking about a program, so program is nothing but a set of instructions along with the data. A program is a set of instructions along with the data considered as input. Okay, so what is a program? A program is a set of instructions along with the data considered as input that are to be processed. That are to be processed to give the output. So the program may be anything. So it may be regarding data analysis. It may be AI using Python. It may be anything. The At the end of the day, it is all about giving the input, processing the input, and giving the output. Okay. So, for
Okay.
example, if I'm saying as a user or as a programmer, so as a programmer, so what I will be doing, so I will be giving an instruction, so something like say add 4 comma 3. So what is add here? Add is nothing but an instruction.
Operation. Okay.
Okay. 4 comma 3 is nothing but the data. So add is an instruction and 4 comma 3 is nothing but the data. So add 4 comma 3. So what you are doing? You are calling it as input. Now as the programs increases, the volume of the instructions, the volume of the data will increase generally. So this is a simple program. We have just one instruction and some data. But when you try to do some advanced programs, what will increase? The set of, I mean, the instructions, maybe two or three instructions, maybe five, maybe 10, and the data may be heavy. Okay, so that's what happens. So, and the data gets processed according to the instruction. Now, for example, I said add 4 comma 3. So, what it does, it adds. So, it adds 4 and 3. So, this is the logic application. So
Right.
logic application you generally say, or we in simple terms we call it as processing. So what we are doing here, so we are taking the data, so taking the data and adding the instruction along with it, and we are applying a logic, okay, and we are getting the output. So what is output over here? So output is 7. So output. So we generally call this output as information. So whenever I say a program, the main thing is you're converting data into information. So that is what the point. So the data conversion happens. Okay, so the data conversion happens via some logic application. So we simply put it as process. So data gets processed and you get the information. Okay, so this is what generally the program methodology is. Okay, so as I told you, there may be an increase in data volumes, there might be increase in the logics you apply. Okay, so there might be a lot of information you might get, so in the programs. So this is a simple program, so you are having just two inputs. Okay, so and you are having one simple instruction and you are getting one simple information. As the programs increases, so this might increase. Okay, the next thing that we need to understand is how you provide this data. So how you provide this data, and next up we will be talking about how we process, what are the different operations that we do, and all. So first we
Okay.
need to understand about the data. Okay, so first if you understand about the data, then we will be going into the logical thing. Okay. So now in order to understand the data, so before we will talk about the components of programming. So components of programming. So before going to the components of programming, so I want you to install Python in your system. Okay, so in order to
Okay.
install Python into your system, okay, I'll just show you how to do it. So go to any of the browser, just say python.org. So python.org. So just go to the downloads. If you are using a Windows system, uh, go to the downloads. Just select this Python 3.12.5. So this is the latest version of Python. Just download it. Okay. So once you download it, just double click on it. Okay. So what I'll be doing is I'll be doing upgrade because I have already Python in my system. But you can
Okay.
install. So you can
Okay.
install. It takes just 2 minutes of time. You're doing it along with me?
Yeah, I'm doing it.
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
Okay.
set the
Meanwhile,
course.
you just go to the browser again and you just install Spider IDE. So Spider IDE. So you can just download this also because it will be easy. As you don't have any idea on Python programming, it will be easy to work with Spider.
Okay.
Okay. So just go to the download. So go to download for Windows. So it is SPYDER.
SPY. Yeah.
Hmm.
Download for Windows.
So
Okay.
go to the download section. So I think it is not conforming. Shall see, keep it. Okay, so once Python is over, yeah. So
Yeah, it's installed.
yeah, Spider is also. So Spider also you can install.
Yeah, Spider is getting installed. Another
Okay,
couple of minutes. Okay.
fine. So it will get updated for me. No problem. Fine. So once it is installed, you can just check the Python installation. Just go to IDLE. So if you get something like IDLE, okay. So IDLE. So just in the start Windows, uh, you can just go for IDLE. you will have a shell open, something like this.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So just you can check something like this: A is equal to 5, uh, B is equal to 3, something like this. Just to check whether the installation took fine, I mean, took place fine or not. So just this. Yeah, if it is done, if you get the answer something like this,
Okay.
some output, we can just close it because we are not going to do any programs in this. We are going to do everything in Spider. Okay.
Okay.
And later on, I'll show you how to do it in Visual Studio, because in Visual Studio you can work with some plugins. Okay. So then we will. So once we have all our basics done, then we'll take ourselves into Visual Studio. Okay, because there you'll
Okay.
get some code assistance also. But basics, I don't suggest directly to go on to Visual Studio. So that is why I'm asking you to go for Spider. Okay, let it get installed in the background. So
Okay.
first, let us understand about the components of the program. So basically, components means the parts of the program. Okay. So components means the parts of the program. If to put it in simple words, the parts of the program. So whenever I'm talking about the components here, so the components are divided into two basically. One is non-executable components. So non-executable components, and the second one is executable components. Non-executable components, first one, and second one is non-executable. First one is non-executable, and the second one is executable. So when I'm talking about non-executable components, okay, so the non-executable components are the type of components used for providing some information only. Okay, used for some information. Okay, so use it for providing some information. So, and they do not directly, they do not directly process the output. Okay, so that is why they are usually called as non-executable components. Okay, so they don't get executed, so they don't get processed. So that is why we are calling them as non-executable. So, what are these non-executable components? They are nothing but comments. Comments are said to be non-executable components. So, comments in Python are said to be non-executable components. So, what is the use of them? So the use of them is to provide some information. Now, for example, okay, first of all, we will talk about the syntax. So, what do I mean by syntax here? Syntax are nothing but the rules. Okay, so syntax are nothing but the rules how we can write something in the program. Now, for example, the syntax for comments. Okay, so syntax for comments is hash.
Slash
So
slash.
you have to give
Okay.
symbol hash. Yeah, so you have to give the symbol hash followed by the line of comment. Okay, followed by the line of comment. So in Python, we have only one style of comment, uh, that is hash. Okay, technically there is only one, but we can look at the other things in different way, so that I'll tell you later. So uh, for the time being, comment is nothing but the non-executable component which is written something like this. Now, for example, if I just go to the example, we'll put it here. So example, now for example, if I'm writing adding two numbers, okay, adding two numbers. Now for example, if I'm saying adding two numbers, so this is a comment. So this line will not give us any kind of output. Okay, so this is just for
Correct.
some information. This is just for some information. Okay, so comments can be made on any line. Comments can be made on any line. Okay, so it is not that comments have to be done, comments have to be given in the same line, only one line. It is not like that. It can be made on any line
Right.
of the program. Any line of the program. Okay, so now, okay, so let,
Yeah, mine is installed.
yes, so so now we will talk about the executable components. So once it is loaded, I'll just show you the example. So whenever I'm talking about executable components, so executable components are the components which will affect the output directly or indirectly. Okay, the type of components that affect the output, that affect the output directly or indirectly. So directly or indirectly. So directly or indirectly affects the output. So now, for example, if I am saying, so to add two numbers. So Python is so easy that you can just start with programming like simple mathematics. Now, for example, if I'm saying a is equal to 5 and I'm saying b is equal to 3. So to print something, I can use something like print. So print is actually called as a function. That is also one component. So we'll talk about that. So a plus b. Okay, so now this is a program. So now these are all the executable components. Okay, so a is equal to 5, b is equal to 3, so print. So these are all the things which contribute in my output. Okay, so which contribute in my output. So then where I can put the comments, so comments I can put it over here. So it does not make any difference. Okay, so in the output, this line will not make any difference. So that is what is a comment. Okay, so simply if I'm writing a program,
Correct.
so it takes time. Okay, so anyhow, I'll write it here. Okay, so right. So now whenever I'm talking about this line, okay, now for example this line, so I can describe this line basically. So 5 assigned to A. Okay. So
Right.
what I'm keeping here, I'm keeping a comment. I'm keeping a comment. So comment is non-executable. I mean, so comments are non-executable. But who is executable? So something other than comment is executable. So they directly or indirectly will help you in the output. But this does not have any effect on the output. Okay. Any other. So now other than comments, so if there is anything other than comments, so they are all called as executable components. So now, uh, so for example, if I am talking about, yeah, so now just let me write this. So now what I'm doing here, I'm just saying adding two numbers and I'm just giving this. Now I will run. Okay, so in Spider you can just run it like this. So addition of two numbers. So I'm not involving addition of two numbers here. So now I'm involving addition of two numbers, but it does not make any difference. So now you see this output and this output. So you have an empty line here. Okay, so this empty line is not contributing towards the output. Okay, so that's the point. Okay, so non-executable means they are not involved in the output literally. Okay, so that's the
Okay.
thing I want to say. Yeah, so those are the comments for us. Okay, so executable. So now we will have some executable components, but remember anything other than comments in programming are going to be executable. Anything other than comments. Okay, we will have some list of components. Okay, so to understand the programming a little bit more. Okay, so the first of the components. Okay, I'll write that line. Anything other than comments. Anything other than comments, anything other than comments are said to be, okay, anything other than comments are said to be executable components. Okay, so anything other than comments are said to be executable components. So first we will start with keywords. So some of them we will list out as I've told you. Some of the executable components are, okay, because we cannot list out everything, but initially to make us understand the program, we'll have some. Okay, keywords. So whenever I'm talking about keywords, keywords are the words
that are used in program.
exactly. So that are used in a program which have a specific meaning. So which have a specific meaning
Okay.
and and a functionality. Okay, so they will have a specific meaning and a functionality. Okay, so they are already preserved. Okay, so they're already reserved, I
Correct.
can say. So they're already
Yeah.
reserved for some purpose. Okay, so they are reserved means they will have some specific meaning and functionality. So what are keywords here? So keywords are the words that are used in a program which have a specific meaning and a functionality. So whenever you use that keyword in the program, so you will have that functionality exposed basically. Okay, so now for example you have something like if so you have something like for, okay, so you have something like while, okay, so there are so many things like this. So
Yeah.
there are so many keywords like this. Okay, so as we use it in our programming, we will be knowing about all of them. So the words that are used in the program which have a specific meaning or a functionality. Okay, so that is what. So these are the keywords basically. Okay, so now every keyword will have some specific functionality. Okay, so now, for example, if I am using something like uh, for, okay, so for is a keyword. Okay, so for is a keyword. So of course there is a some attached functionality to it. So later on we will understand. So we have else. Okay, so else should be attached by if. Okay, so there are so many keywords like this.
Yeah. If
So we will be
then. Yeah. Yes. If then else.
okay.
And
So
yes.
some syntax differences will be there
Okay.
when coming to other programming. Okay. So those things we will be understanding. So next one very important is uh, literals. Okay, slowly we will be talking about the data part. So whenever I'm talking about literals here, so literals are nothing but the data parts of the program. Okay, so the data parts of the program. Okay, so or I can say the data value parts. Okay, so data value parts of the program. So whenever I'm saying literals, okay, so literals are, they are fixed in nature. Okay, so fixed in nature in the sense they are like fixed values. Now for example, if I am saying 5, so 5 is a literal, 5 is a literal. Okay, anyhow, so we will have the types. So in Python we have the following literals. Okay, so first we will just have the list first. So first thing we have is numeric literals.
Okay.
Okay, so then we have character based literals. Okay, then you have, or you can also call them as string literals. Then you have boolean literals. Okay, So all the data is defined in this four only. Okay. So and then you have non-literal. So all the data in Python is defined from this only. So if at all you are looking at some other data, so it is also a byproduct of this data. Okay, so that is what you need to understand. So first we will talk about numeric literals. So whenever I am talking about numeric literals, so numeric literals nothing but the
Numbers.
representation of numbers. Okay, so
Right.
simple. So numeric literals are the representation of the numbers. Okay, so with reference to the number line, so with reference to the number line, so if you remember the number line, so something like 0 1 2 3 4 and so on, minus 1 minus 2 minus 3 minus 4 minus 9
Okay.
and so on. So this is basically
Integers.
number line. The numeric literals are the representation of numbers with reference to the number line. So simple, it is a simple basic thing. Okay. So now in this we have three types of literals. Okay. So
So decimals. Okay.
yeah. So in this we have three types. Okay. So first type is going to be integers. Second one is going to be float point. So float point numbers. Third one
Okay.
is going to be complex numbers. Okay. So whenever I'm talking about integers here, so integers are nothing but the non-decimal point values. The non-decimal point values. So whenever I'm talking about integers here, integers are the non-decimal point values. As you can see over here, these are all integers. Okay, so these are all integers, non-decimal point value. So they don't have any decimal point. Okay, so technically speaking, so they are single valued numbers. They are single valued numbers with a single part. They are single valued numbers with a single part. That is an integer part. So we generally call it as integer part. Okay, so now for example, if I am trying to define an integer, so something like 45. So this is a single valued number. Okay, so if it is two digit number, if it is one digit number, or if it is uh, of many digits, so it is called as a single valued number. Okay, so single valued number, we call it as IP. So IP is nothing but the integer part. So we call it as integer part. Okay, so
Okay.
we need to remember this while conversion, it will be useful. So we call it as integer part. So this number is a single valued number with a single part, which is integer part. So of course you have negative numbers also, zero also, all of them are said to be integers basically. Okay, and coming to the point, so float point numbers. Okay, so whenever I'm talking about float point, okay, so how can I declare these numbers? Now for example, if I'm saying 89, so what is 89 here? 89 is going to be an integer. Okay, so 89 is going to be an integer. So this is the literal part of your program. Okay, so this is literal. So every time a literal must be assigned. Okay, so in order to use this or reuse this number, you need to have a assignment. Okay, so we'll talk about them. Okay, so first of all we will just talk about this right side part. So this is called as a literal, and specifically it is a numeric literal. Okay, so it is a numeric literal, or I can say it is an integer literal. Okay, so integer literal, so what is the point here? They are the non-decimal point values. They are single valued numbers with only a single part. We call it as integer part. So now coming to the next, so we have float point numbers. So then what are float point numbers here? So float point numbers are nothing but the decimal point values. Okay, so what are they? They are decimal point values. Okay, so we call them as decimal point values. Now, for example, if I ask you, so what is the number between 1 and 2? So you'll simply say it is 1.5. So what is the number between minus 3 and minus 4? So you'll say something like minus 3.8, something like that. Okay, so what we are talking about? We are talking about float point. Okay, so we are talking about float point. So they are nothing but the decimal point values. Okay, again, if I have to say this point, so they are also single valued numbers. Okay, so they are also single valued numbers, but so they are also single valued numbers, but they have three parts. So with three parts. So what are the three parts going to be? So the three parts going to be an integer part, a decimal point. So decimal point here we call it as dp, and we have the fractional part. Okay, so we have the fractional part fp. So if I can take you back to the simple mathematics that we studied at school, so we generally used to have 3 1 by 4. So 3 1 by 4 was called as what? 3 plus 1 by 4. So 1 by 4 is nothing but, so 0.428. So it is nothing but, sorry, 4 5
3.25.
20. Yeah, 0.25. So it is nothing but 3 plus 0.25, which is nothing but 3.25. The same number here. So it is 3.25. But in programming, we call it as a single valued number with three parts. So integer part, the decimal point, and the fractional part. Okay. So this is the fractional part literally. Okay. So this is the fractional part that we are looking at. Okay. So now why we represent in this way? Because while conversion, it will be easy for us to understand. So which we will be learning later. So again, any number. So now, for example, if I'm saying minus 8.16, okay. So this is also a um, float point number, or which is nothing but uh, the decimal pointed value. So you can say 0.37. So something like this. Everything is a float point number. So then coming to the discussion on uh, the complex numbers. So complex numbers are not very much used in the real time, but still we need to know them, as we have a provision to know them. So they are the numbers. Okay, so I cannot take that part. I can take only this part here. So they are the numbers. Okay, so they are the single valued numbers with two parts. Okay, so two parts. So what are the two parts? So two parts. First one is real parts. So we call it as RP, and we call it as the next one imaginary parts. Okay, so imaginary parts. So whenever I'm saying imaginary parts, I can just say IMP. Okay, so now how can I define a fractional point number? So something like 6.389. Okay, so or I can say minus 5.21. So what exactly these are? These are going to be the fractional point number, or fractional or floating point numbers. Okay, so when coming to the complex numbers, so we generally define them something like 5 minus 2j. Okay, so 5 minus 2j. So something like 6 minus, or I can say minus 6 minus 3, or I can say plus 3j. Okay, so these are the complex numbers. Okay, so these are the complex numbers. So complex numbers, as I told you, not very much useful in the real time, but still we have to know them as
Okay.
complex values. Okay, so now as I told you, so something like so 3 minus 2j. So this is the real part and this is the imaginary part. Okay. So these are the complex numbers. Okay. So what I will do is I will finish off these two. So we'll talk about character in our next session so that because it covers most of the time. Okay. So first we will complete these two for today. So Boolean literals. Whenever I'm talking about Boolean literals, so Boolean literals are nothing but the type of literals which will have only two values. Okay. So the type of literals that have only two values. Okay, so what are those two values? The two values are going to be
True and false.
and false. Yes. So the two values are going to be true and false. So we have only two values which are going to be true and false. Okay. So true and here this is going to be false. Okay. So these are going to be the two values of the boolean. Okay, so they don't have any they are single valued, of course, so they are also single valued. Okay, so so I can write that point also because we might get confused. They are also single valued numbers. Okay, so they'll have a single, they are also single value, not numbers basically. Okay, but literally in the background, false is zero, and anything other than false is, I mean, anything other than zero is true. So that is there, but we will not concentrate much on it. Okay, so these are only the two values we have, and then finally we are going to look at the non-literal. So whenever I'm talking about the non-literal, none represents nothing. Okay, so now if you have observed here what we have seen, so whenever I'm saying true, I'm getting some output. So whenever I'm saying false, I'm getting some output. Whenever I'm running these things, I'm getting some output. But if I am just running none, I will not get any output. So if you are here, if you observe, we are not getting any output. So I'm running true, I'm running false, I'm running all the other numbers, I'm getting some output. But as you can see, when I am running the none, I'm not getting any value. Okay, so I'm not getting any value here. So why I'm not getting any value? Because none will represent nothing. Okay, so none will represent nothing. So that is the point here. So
Then
as
why do we
none,
have it?
yeah. So it has uses also. So I'll tell you when we are talking about functions. Okay, so when we are talking about some scripting based things, we will be talking about the importance of it. So for
Okay.
now, you say none represents nothing. Okay, so so now true is something, false is something. Okay, so and complex number, whatever it is something. Everything is some value, everything is defining some value, but here, as you can see, none represents nothing. Okay, so none represents nothing. And these are all the single valued literals. Okay, so and in our next session, okay, because it will take more time, so that's why I'm keeping it for tomorrow. So
Okay.
character based literals, so these are multiple values. Okay, so these are multiple values. So we call it as string literals, multiple values, collection of characters, we can say. So, and as I've told you, so these four are the things, okay, are the primary data for us. Okay, so whatever data you have in the future, now for example, you have date. So like say 14/8/24. So what is this? This is a date. So now it contains integers. Okay, so it contains some characters. So it is taken from these four only. Whatever data you use in the future, so all of them are derived from these four only. Okay, so that's why if you understand this, so you have understood the data values. Okay, so we are talking about the data values. Okay, so today we talked about literals, we talked about keywords. They are under the executable component section, and executable components means which will give some output, which will affect the output. And then we also talked about non-executable components. Non-executable components are nothing but comments only. Okay, comments only are said to be non-executable. Okay, so and then we also understood what is a program. Okay, so these are the
Okay.
things for today's session. So tomorrow we'll again uh, log in at 5:30.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Hope you understood. If you have any
Yes.
other questions, anything you can.
Right. Okay. Sure. So we'll have weekdays, I guess, right?
Yes. Yes.
Weekdays. Okay.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. One more question. How
Yeah.
long does it take for me to understand Python? Like, I mean, for this session, like 1 month or so?
Yeah. 1 month to 45 days max.
1 month to 45 days. Okay.
But it,
Okay.
it depends on your practice, how you are
Correct.
practicing. So I'll be giving. So once the programming and all starts, I'll be giving you some tasks also.
Okay.
Okay. So that it will help you in understanding it better. Okay, for
Okay.
example, if I'm discussing 5 or 6 problems in the class, I'll be giving 5 or 6 problems as an assignment. Okay, so
Okay.
because it will help you in understanding it more. Okay, so then definitely if you have any problem in solving that assignment, I'll help you, not a problem. Uh,
Okay.
so more of practice. See, literally, I'm talking about practicing more. Okay,
Correct.
suppose 1 hour of class you are listening. So at least 3 hours if you put in practice, okay, so that will definitely help you learn easier and faster.
Yeah. Sure.
More into practice, that's it.
Okay. Okay, sir.
Okay, okay,
Okay.
thank you. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.